Well, greetings to everyone at Belize Central, and here we are uh, this evening, and we want to be looking at Daniel chapter 2. Now, we already started last week in Daniel chapter 2, but we were distracted. We could not finish this passage because we were talking about dreams and how important dreams are. And yes, dreams are important. No matter how you look at it, they always have an impact on your life. And throughout the Bible, we see that dreams were crucial. Dreams are crucial. One, for God to get the message out. Could be a message of warning, could be a message of rebuke, could be a message of I would say a good thing, a prophecy. But usually when we think about the dreams, it was like a precursor to difficulty or danger. And it was a way of alerting you to make a different choice so that you could be delivered. So, therefore, we want to pick back up in Daniel chapter 2. So just let me share my screen. Daniel chapter 2. If I could bring that up there now. And here we go. Let's pick it up from, now remember what happened earlier. Daniel and the three Hebrew boys, they were in captivity in Babylon. But yet they were specially selected to work in the king's palace, work for the government. They had already passed the test of eating vegetables and water, keeping to the Hebrew diet. And they passed that test. They were looking better than the others. And so then now we pick up in chapter 2, where King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And because he believed that his enchanters and astrologers and magicians, they were not, and Chaldeans, they were not going to be able to interpret this dream, and they would have given him some kind of twisted interpretation had he shared a dream. He challenged them to tell him what the dream was. Now, of course, when some person come and tell us, you know what I dreamed last night, we have to say no, because we were not in the dream. We can't read minds. And so we see there's a limitation in human beings. While you may go to the psychic, while you may go to the fortune teller, sometimes they have to give you some information first. And then they'll be able to give you some kind of reading, as they say, read the palm or read the crystal ball. I don't really know this thing because I have never been, but I see the thing on TV. But the Bible clearly shows us here that these same people are limited in their work, because a psychic is supposed to be able to tell you things without you prompting them, without you informing them. And so if the king had astrologers and magicians and enchanters and sorcerers, if he had all these things, then he was supposed to come up with the answer through one of them. But they said, listen, this thing is not possible with humans. Only the gods can do that, and there's no God living here among men. But if we look back into chapter 1 of Daniel and verse 17, as I mentioned before, it says that the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were given true divine inspiration of God not all knowledge, understanding many things. And Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar, is Babylonian name. He, God blessed him with the ability to understand and interpret all dreams and visions. And therefore, we pick it up now where Daniel is coming to the king to say, listen, I think I can share with you what has happened. So we pick it up in verse 24 of chapter 2, where he says, then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him. Now, of course, we know from reading the earlier verses, God revealed the dream to Daniel, and God revealed the interpretation of the dream. And so now many lives are at stake. The lives of all the enchanters and the magicians and the sorcerers. Yeah, these are basically the captors of the Hebrew voice. But yet, Daniel is going to stand in the gap so that nobody loses their life over the king's dream. And verse 25, Arioch took Daniel to the king at once. Of course, he had to take him at once, because if he cannot produce somebody, if he could not produce somebody who would interpret the dream, the king was going to have him killed, Arioch. And so he says to the king, I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means. You must never underestimate where your help comes from. Never underestimate how God will use somebody to help you, the least unlikely of people. These are the kind of things that are coming up to us through this passage, because it says, how was Daniel described? Daniel was working for King Nebuchadnezzar, one of the highly respected guys, but yet he was referred to as one of the exiles from Judah. It's a difference between him and the others. He's a slave, a captive. And the king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it? In verse 27, Daniel replied, no wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is, listen, there, God is always a but. And he does not take the glory or the praise to him for himself. You remember Matthew chapter 5 and verse 16, it says, let her light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. It never say, when we do good things, yeah, people will be pleased with us and worship us. No. All praise and thanks should go to God, right? He is worthy of all praise. He's the one that blesses us with the ability to do whatever we do. So therefore, no, we can't attribute anything to what we have done, but what God has done through us. And so he testifies, no wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that passed through your mind as you were lying in bed are these. Here is the man of God standing up and saying, there is a God in heaven who has revealed these things to me. He has revealed, and the dream that you have dreamt is a sign or a prophecy, a vision of what will take place in the future. And here is what it is. Now, all the enchanters and the sorcerers and magicians, they could not tell the king what he had dreamt. But here Daniel is going to say, God has revealed it to me what you dream. And here it is. It is a prophecy of what is going to happen in the future. Verse 29, as your majesty was lying here, your mind turned to things to come. And the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen, says God. But Nebuchadnezzar is not a believer of God. Yet God has shown him a vision. What does that say? That God can use anybody. Even an atheist that doesn't believe in God, God can use him to witness to others about God. Doesn't that sound crazy? Doesn't that sound incredible? But that's just who he is. God can activate anybody at any time because he is in control. And that's why we reassure each other when we sing the chorus, God is still on the throne and he will remember his own. So, as your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. Verse 30. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation, and that you may understand what went through your mind. He said, listen, this is not about me. I am simply a vessel that God is using. I am simply the mouthpiece of what he wants to share. Isn't that amazing? Listen, all of these verses packed with some kind of nugget for us to take. Here in this one here, listen, all praise and glory belongs to God. And Belteshazzar, or Daniel, as we call him, he just keeps praising God and attributing all of the honor and the praise and the glory to God. So, verse 31, your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. Verse 34, while you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away and away without leaving a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. Now, these are descriptions of things that symbolic. And now we're going to put some flesh on them. We're going to have an understanding of this great statue and of different parts and being shattered into pieces. Let's see if we can understand. Verse 36, this was a dream, and now we will interpret it to the king, because Daniel was given all power and all understanding of dreams and visions. And so God gave him the power to understand them. God gave him the ability to interpret them. And so then now let's get the interpretation. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it. We, who's we? Daniel and God. God is the one that showed him what the dream was. God gave him the explanation. So we can't do anything without him. So we might as well say we can't say, let me tell you now. Let me tell you now the interpretation. Yes, we can say that. But of course, we would have already said, this did not come from me. This came from God. So when we say, let me show you the interpretation, is not my interpretation, but God's interpretation that he has revealed to me. Your Majesty, verse 37, you are the King of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them. You are that head of gold. Okay, you got it? Big brass thing, a big statue. Some parts brass, some parts iron, some parts clay, some parts uh, some parts gold. It says, the God of heaven has given dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field. Now, this was known here. And yet, didn't take responsibility. He says, he has placed all mankind. Isn't it so? Because right then, he had captured the Israelites. God had placed this nation, millions of people, in the hands of King Nebuchadnezzar. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them. You are the head of gold. Verse 39, after you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. As you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel and paid him honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him, because he had interpreted the king's dream, but not just interpreted, he had also shown him the dream without Nebuchadnezzar telling him all about the dream. So the king paid Daniel honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. Then the king said to Daniel, surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings, and a reminder and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery. Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. I like this. No one left behind. I tell you, this passage is filled with all kind of nuggets. He got through. He was blessed. He was going to be promoted, but yet he could not forget the other three who were able to, as we say, pass the fitness test after eating just vegetables and water. He did not leave them behind. He asked the king to give them a position as well, a job to do. So then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. Isn't God good? He restores us, or he puts us into a level that we have never been before. It says they were appointed as administrators over the province of Babylon. But weren't these Hebrews, weren't they exiles? Yet they have been exalted. They get a promotion. They have risen through the ranks, and they are considered even as people who could be promoted. People who could be trusted with highly confidential stuff. People in high levels. Daniel said, no, I didn't do this on my own, because he said, let us pray. So he had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego praying. And much so we would expect them to pray as well. But I like this. I like this. He asks for the king to appoint Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as administrators. I reflect on this. And I say, listen, God has a plan. And even if we are in prison, even though we may have so many barriers around us, God will activate the plan in our life and bring us through. What is the plan that God has for your life? I don't know. I don't know the plan he has for my life. I can't see it being fulfilled. I am not fully aware of it, but I know that he has one, and it is an individual one for everyone. And here he was, all the debate was going on between the young men, the scholars, and here was a chance for Daniel to prove there is a higher God than the gods that the Babylonians worship. There's one to be trusted, there's one to be followed, and that is why he and the other boys were eating only the vegetables and drinking the water. That was their custom. And so God brought them out. And every step along the way, when you and I trust in God, he will bring us out where it seems impossible. We often sing a chorus that says, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. So this passage also is talking about governments, and governments that will try to rise up, and governments that will fall. But you and I must remain faithful. You and I must continue to look to God. And he answers us, and he fulfills his plan for our lives. There is a plan, even though at your stage of your life or the things that you are doing, you may not think so. But I want to share with you today, God has a plan for your life. Allow him to work that plan in your life. And for you to allow him, it means that you recognize that there are some things in your life that need to be changed, and you are working it through with God. Then after that, we can sing how great God is. But it started with a dream, and then that dream blossomed out into a part saving of the Israelite nation. My dear friends, let's get ready for Daniel chapter 3. One of my all-time favorite passages of scripture, Daniel chapter 3, and the story that unfolds in that chapter. May God bless you as you continue to live for him, as you continue to trust him. He is with us all the time. Blessings.